I'm gonna show you how to make Kyiv cake. There are 2 layers of moist, soft sponge cake, thick, dry, crispy layer of meringue, some delicious buttercream, and loaded with lots of roasted hazelnuts. So good. We'll start by making the sponge cake, and we'll need 6 eggs. Mix on high speed until they get lighter in color and they will increase in size. Then reduce the speed to medium and slowly add 1 cup of sugar. Then on the highest speed, you're gonna mix until they're super fluffy for about 3 minutes. Do you see how light and fluffy that looks? Then get 1 cup of flour and add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Mix it up and sift it through the strainer to our batter. Then get a spatula and gently mix just until the flour is mixed in. Don't overmix because it will deflate the batter, and we want our sponge cake to be fluffy and airy. Line your tray with parchment paper and transfer the batter. Leave at least 1 inch of space from the top because the batter will increase in size and spill out. Preheat the oven to 375 and bake for 45 minutes. Check with the wooden stick. If it's dry, it's ready. When it cools down completely, I'm gonna run the knife along the sides to loosen them and take the sponge cake out. Split the cake into 2 even halves. Now I'll show you how to make meringue. It's best to use kitchen scale. Make sure the bowl is extra clean because meringue doesn't like any oils. We'll need 5 egg whites, and make sure not to add any egg yolk. That is very, very important. Like not even a tiny bit. No egg yolk at all. 5 egg whites measure 166 grams. Yours might be a little different. Write the number down. Now we're gonna measure double amount of sugar. For me, that's 332 grams. This is also very important. You want to use white sugar so your meringue won't melt. Use white sugar. Add a pinch of salt to egg whites and mix on high speed for a few minutes until white and fluffy. Now reduce the speed to medium and slowly add the sugar. Once you added all the sugar on the high speed, you're gonna mix for like 3 minutes. Then add half of a tablespoon of lemon juice. And on the high speed, mix until stiff peaks. I just want to show you the difference. So this is soft peak. This is not done yet. And this is stiff peak. You can see how stiff it is. That's how it should look. I will be using open start tip to pipe the meringue. Transfer meringue to a piping bag, and meringue does melt if you don't work with it right away. I'm lining my baking tray with parchment paper, and I'm doing 2 separate halves because the baking time will be different. The meringue circle will take much longer to bake than the decorative tops. And I'm using the base of the spring pan to make a template for the circle. Now just simply pipe the meringue, and I'm gonna do 2 layers. I want the meringue to be thick. And the rest of the meringue, I'll be making these cute little dome shapes. I'll be using those to decorate the cake. Preheat the oven to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. The mini dome shapes will take about 2.5 hours, and the large circle will take about 4 hours to bake. It's very important to check the meringue with the wooden stick. If it's dry, it's ready. If it's wet, it's not ready. Because if you won't dehydrate the meringue well, you will cut the cake and you will have melted meringue, so make sure you check on that. If you see liquid like this, it's not ready. Give it a lot of time. It needs to be very dry. Now we can make our buttercream. We'll need 2 sticks of butter. That's 1 cup. Butter needs to be soft at room temperature. Add half of a cup of powdered sugar. Mix until it's well blended together. Add 2 cups of cream and mix until you get thick buttery consistency. It will look like this. Transfer 2 cups of the buttercream to a separate container. This buttercream we'll be using for the inside of the cake. Now the cream that is left in the bowl, we're going to be making the cream that will be covering the cake. Add 1.5 cups of cream. Add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And if you like the cake to be a little sweeter, you can add some powdered sugar, like 1/2 cup or to taste. You're gonna mix just until it's fluffy, don't overmix. If you overmix, it's gonna turn into butter. So when it looks like this, gets a little thicker, you stop mixing. Now my favorite part, we're gonna put the cake together, so the sponge layer will go first. Next, we're gonna spread the thick buttercream that we made earlier, about half of it. I'm sprinkling some hazelnuts and make sure they're roasted because that makes a huge difference. Next, put the layer of meringue. Spread the remaining buttercream evenly. Sprinkle some more roasted hazelnuts. Next goes the second piece of the sponge cake. Now we're gonna use the fluffy buttercream to cover the cake. Just use all of it and spread evenly. I'm gonna use more hazelnuts to cover the cake. They need to be roasted and I'm gonna crush them. Generously sprinkle those hazelnuts all over the cake. The cake will be covered completely. Next, I'm gonna put the cute meringue domes on top of the cake. I'm using a fork to drizzle some melted dark chocolate on top. Let the cake refrigerate overnight to set, or at least for 8 hours. So we have 2 layers of soft, moist sponge cake that is covered in buttercream and crunchy, dry meringue in the center. Lots of roasted hazelnuts. It's a perfect combination.